Good evening. When we think of a leader or we think of leadership, what comes into our mind? Power, authority, control. But what if leadership isn't about being the boss, the smartest person in the room, or the one who gives orders? What if the real power of leadership begins with not with leading, but with serving? Today, I want to invite you to reflect on a question that has changed the way I work, lead, and live. Do we lead to serve, or do we serve to lead? We just recently concluded our midterm elections. If you're like me, you heard it all before. Elect me and I will serve the people wholeheartedly. I will serve the people. I will be your voice. Mga nanay, mga tatay ko, ako ang bahala sa inyo. Sounds familiar? Every election cycle, we hear these promises, and yet year after year, the progress of hope or the progress that we hope for often doesn't arrive. In fact, sometimes it feels like we're moving backwards. More corruption, more disconnection, more disappointment. So we have to ask, are we choosing the kind of leaders who truly understand what it means to serve? Or are we mistaking confidence and charisma for character and compassion? This isn't just a political issue. It's leadership issue. And it's one that plays out of boardrooms, classrooms, government halls, and even in our own homes. In Servant Leadership in Action, Ken Blanchard writes, servant leadership is not about leaders, or not about the leader. It's about the people. Let that sink in for that moment. It flips the traditional leadership model on its head. Instead, a pyramid with the leader on top. Servant leadership turns that pyramid upside down. The leader is at the bottom, not to control, but to support, uplift, and empower those above. It's about listening before speaking, supporting before judging, understanding before deciding. A servant leader doesn't say, I am the boss, so follow me. They say, I am here to help you succeed, so how can I serve you today? This philosophy might sound soft, but in truth, it's one of the hardest forms of leadership because it requires empathy, humility, and discipline. You're not just managing results, you're nurturing people. Let me tell you my personal experience, my story. When my precious company mandated to office after the pandemic, I found myself in a difficult moment. Like many, I had grown accustomed to the flexibility of remote work, and the decision felt like a step backward. So I began looking for a new role. I wasn't expecting much, but then an opportunity came, a supervisory role in a new company. Here's the catch. I had no prior experience being a supervisor. And I remember asking myself, how can I lead effectively when I haven't done this before? What kind of leader will I be? In that moment of doubt, I held on to something simple but powerful. The golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I started with the basics. I spoke to each staff members one-on-one. I introduced myself, asked about their experience, listened to their struggles and expectations. I assured them that I wouldn't be the kind of manager who micromanages. and criticizes from afar. Instead, I would be present. I would guide, not command. I would walk with them through the stress, not above it. And of course, there was hesitation at first. I was an outsider, an unknown face, stepping into a leadership role. But over time, something shifted. As they saw my consistency and care, the resistance faded. They began to trust me. They supported me. And together we created the space where people felt seen and heard. That I wasn't perfect, but I was committed. And that made all the difference. From that experience and from what we've learned in our class, I've realized three important truths about leadership. Number one, leadership is about serving first. When I listened first and led second, everything changed. The team opened up. Communication became easier. Problems were solved faster. It's not magic, it's human decency. Second, empowerment is stronger than control. Servant leadership isn't about fixing everything yourself. It's about equipping others to thrive. I didn't micromanage. I removed roadblocks and asked how I could help and gave people space to grow. That created ownership and initiative. And lastly, soft skills created strong results. Empathy, trust, patience, these aren't optional. They are essential. When people feel respected and valued, they show up. They give more. They grow. And this applies not just in the workplace. This principle extends to families, communities, and even national leadership. We live in a time when leadership is often equated with ego. We reward the loudest voice, the sharpest suit, and boldest claim. But real leadership isn't about being in charge. It's about taking care of those you are in charge. But what if our public servants listened more than they spoke? What if our bosses saw themselves as team members, not overlords? What if leaders prioritize people over profit, purpose over pride? That's not just idealism. That's servant leadership. And the organization that practices it, studies show, are more productive, more resilient, and more innovative. In our course, we learned that effective leadership is rooted in emotional intelligence and psychological safety. Teams thrive not because the leader is brilliant, but because the leader makes it safe to take risks, ask questions, and makes mistakes. As a supervisor, I've seen this firsthand. When I listen more and judge less, people come forward. They offered solution. They took ownership. That's what happened when people feel safe to be human. So leadership isn't about telling people what to do. It's about building the kind of space they want to do it with pride. So let me bring this in full circle. Ken Blanchard, the author of the book that I read, reminds us the most persistent barriers to servant leadership is a heart motivated by self-interest. Leadership is not about the title or tenure. It's about the posture of your heart. Do you lift others up or do you climb over them? Do you listen or do you dictate? So here's my challenge to you. In whatever role you play, in your job, your community, your home, ask this one powerful question. How can I serve the people I lead today? Because when you serve, you're not giving up your power. You're using it for something greater. And that, my friends, is the kind of leadership our world desperately needs. Not just leaders who lead to serve, but leaders who serve in order to lead. Thank you.